Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be discussing APQC's Process Classification Framework, commonly referred to as PCF, and its role in supporting business process management. The central idea presented in the APQC paper is that organizations cannot effectively standardize or continuously improve their business processes without first establishing a common framework that defines what those processes are. The PCS serves as the foundation by providing a structured inventory of an organization's business activities. Rather than discussing how work is performed, the framework identifies what work exists across the enterprise. This distinction is important because process execution can vary over time, but organizations first need a consistent way to classify and organize their work before they can improve it. The process classification PCF is organized into a five-level hierarchy. At the highest levels are categories, which represent major fundamental areas of the organization. These categories are divided into process groups, which contain related business processes. Each process group is further decomposed into individual processes, followed by activities, and finally tasks, which represent the most detailed level of work. This hierarchy decompositions allow organizations to analyze operations at multiple levels of detail. Executives may focus primarily on categories and process groups, while operational managers work at the activity and task levels. The framework therefore provides a consistent structure for both strategic planning and operational management. A key point emphasized in this paper is that organizations rarely implement the APQC framework exactly as published. Instead, they adopt and adapt it. APQC is designed to be a framework that is comprehensive enough that most organizations will recognize the majority of their business processes within it. However, each organization must review the framework, remove processes that do not apply, and add processes that reflect its own industry, products, or operation models. This adaptation process requires participation from multiple business functions because no single department has complete knowledge of all enterprise activities. As a result, developing a process framework becomes an enterprise-wide governance rather than simply a documental exercise. Once the framework has been customized, it becomes the basis for process governance. I believe the greatest value of the PCF is that it creates a common language across departments. Without standardized process definitions, organizations often struggle to measure performance consistently or identify opportunities for improvement. The paper goes on to explain that organizations can begin assigning ownership to individual processes, defining accountability, and establishing standardized performance metrics. Because every process has a defined location within the hierarchy, organizations can consistently measure performance across departments and business units. This supports better alignment between operational activities and strategic objectives. The framework also enables organizations to connect several important management elements, including process ownership, organizational structure, technology, performance measurement, and corporate policies. Rather than managing these independently, the framework serves as a common reference point that integrates them into a united process architecture. This relationship is illustrated in the paper's process framework anchor the system, anchor the enterprise diagram. Other major applications of the PCF is the development of standardized process models. We had a little bit of Marine Corps slip out. The process argues that without a common process framework, different regions or business units often document identical business processes using different terminology, which is different at different levels of detail and different modeling approaches. Although the underlying work may be essentially the same, Inconsistent documentation creates communication problems and makes enterprise-wide improvements much more difficult. The authors of the order-to-cash process as an example. The high-level model illustrates the overall flow from receiving a custom order through customer credit, order fulfillment, invoicing, payment collection, and ultimately receipt of cash. From that high-level view, organizations can drill down to increasingly detailed processes which maps and describes specific activities and tasks performed within each stage. The paper also emphasizes that an effective framework should satisfy the principle of being mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, often abbreviated as MICE. This means that processes should not overlap or be duplicated, while also ensuring that all organizational work is represented somewhere within the framework. Maintaining the structure improves consistency and reduces ambiguity when assigning responsibilities or measuring performance. When different business units create independent process models, they frequently develop unique terminology and workflows that complicate collaboration. Shared service organizations, for example, may have difficulty supporting multiple regions if different documents of the same business process differently. By using a standardized process framework, organizations improve communication, reduce unnecessary variation, and create opportunities to share the best practices across business uses. Finally, the paper positions the process classification framework as a fundamental component of business process maturity. According to APQC, organizations are unlikely to achieve standardization, repeatable process management without first establishing a formal process network. Once the foundation exists, organizations can build process models, define governance structures, establish performance measurements, assign ownership, and pursue continuous improvement using a consistent enterprise-wide methodology. In conclusion, PCF is not intended to prescribe how organizations should execute their work. Instead, it provides a structured classification system that organizes business activities, supports governance, standardizes process documentation, and enables performance measurement across the enterprise. Thank you, and have a good day, and see you next week.